I'm Renee Rochelle, the founder and president of One True Match. I'm here to help you find and cultivate the love of your life. For over a decade, I've dedicated my life to the importance, purpose, and dynamic of human relationships. My team and I are disciplined by faith, love, and integrity to help our clients find the quality relationship they've always dreamt of. Each week, I will be sharing the tools and tips I've learned that have rooted my success as a matchmaker with other leaders around the world. Hello, loves. Welcome back. I am here with Connie.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be back, as per usual.
We hope you're having a fabulous day, whether you are driving, running, working out, or just sitting and having a warm cup of coffee or whatever, listening to us. So we are excited that we're in your ear and we're having some couch talk conversation, even though we're not on the couch, but that we're just talking, because today we want to talk about the 3 love categories that we feel are really important. And when we talk about love and relationships, I think sometimes people get off the track. Yep. They fall in love, they're in lust, they're passionate, all these things that we talk about. But it's really important when we're getting into relationships, we remember the categories to prioritize that are really ultimately important for a lasting relationship.
Yeah, and it's so easy. Like, everyone always thinks when you think of love, you think of your spouse, your husband, your family, and that's, and of course God, but that's a given, right? When it comes to, and especially if anyone listens to it, that's a given. But they normally kind of surface level think about it.
Yeah.
So in these categories, we want to dig deeper to what we believe the 3 love categories are in our life.
And we just did a podcast, if you haven't listened to it prior, on building a foundation. So I feel like this kind of flows into that. So I would advise listening to that, because I feel like, we dived into the 4 solid foundations prior. But I think this is just a different level. So those are the tools to build the solid foundation. And this is just more of, the words to remember when we're choosing a mate. Do we have these details in our, these categories, I guess I would say, that can blossom off to so many other things. But, the first one, and I think prioritize, obviously, is the most important, is our relationship that we have with God.
Yes.
Right? Because God gives us, when we seek God in everything we do, and the Bible says, love God more than anything else, then you're able to love, yourself, always using that oxygen mask. So you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before your seatmate, if you want to continue to help other people. Because if you're dead, you can't help anybody, right? So it's important that you put that oxygen mask on with God first, so that your lungs are fueled with love and passion and oxygen and all the things that we need to survive, to then help and go love others. So I would say the first love category that is so important to perfect is to literally love God more than anything else. And I remember when I was finding my faith on my own, and it was so important that people would say that you have to love God and Jesus more than anything else. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. But when I absolutely stopped what I was doing to do that and focus on that and just literally surrender, it's so incredible how that just transforms the whole way you look at life and people. And it's like your outlet to always plug in when your batteries are low, to get that charge, to be like, that's right, I'm not in control of everything, God is.
Yeah, and I know what I always say, it's also that plan, right? Leaning on God for the plan. Like, it's all going to go and it's all going to work out the way it's supposed to, even when, things aren't necessarily going right, or when maybe you are in a confusion of love, you've been in bad relationships, anything like that. All that matters is that you have God. And I kind of gave it a spoiler by saying it a little earlier and didn't. I mean, it's everyone's pretty much morals, and anyone who's listened to this, I'm sure they don't need to be told twice that number 1 is to love God, but it's also just that reminder when things don't go right, or even without, is to lean on that plan and know that God is there, and also your community within that.
Right, which is so true. And then, the next one is, it's so important that obviously you have a strong foundation in connection with your family and friends. I mean, when we talk about this all the time, it feels like my friends are my family.
Yeah.
Right? And most of my family still lives in upstate New York, so I feel like I keep growing my extended family down in Florida, where obviously I reside, we are. And it's just important that you build that community of family and friends around you, because it helps, obviously with your morale, if people don't have a good circle of friends, or they don't have that foundational, category we're talking about, we ask people all the time, what are your circle of friends like? And if they don't have that, they're probably not going to be good at a relationship with you or other people. And it's something that we don't want to judge, obviously, individuals, but it's so important that if we're not having that community of love and support around us, it's just going to tear us down.
Yeah, 100%. And when it's same with leaning on God, but you also have to lean on your friends and family, people who are here with us daily, who see us daily, who know us inside and out, and also people who you present yourself to. It's good advice, bad advice. Your family are there for, hopefully, or like Renee said, friends who are extended family. Whatever family looks like to you is really, this topic. But it's also being able to lean on those people that know you like so well, and also are able to help guide you. And if you aren't in a relationship yet, practicing relationships with friends and family. So already having that love, I know that, like I mean Renee does as well. We all should know, or at least have an idea, like Renee said, of the circle of what's, but you already have this like fire of love inside you for your family, people that you'll do anything for, your friends. And when I say friends and family, I'm kind of going back on my, going back and forth, but it truly is. Family is friends. Friends are family that you have chosen. So
Absolutely.
Basically family is there no matter what, and also to pull you through the good, the bad, the ugly, but also to be with you through all the good times. And that's truly understanding love. You're not going to have it. It takes years to find a spouse, right?
Yes.
And so
it takes work, because you have to be your best version of yourself in order to have and find that as well. And I think what Connie's going off of too is there's so many times, we get into our routine, our friends and family, like there's so many times I'm like, I don't even have time to hang out with some of my friends or my family, like I don't have time for more. But at the end of the day, it's amazing how God, when we seek Him first and foremost, will bring you opportunities of new people in your life that then develop new friendships. So it's always like I tell everybody, don't be closed-minded to just your circle of friends, because we're on this earth to do the things that God's designed us to be and do, and that is to love all. So I think it's important that we're constantly like in that category we're talking about, like friends and family, that you're also keeping an open mind, because there's somebody that might be new, just like when you got accepted into a group, right? I think there's sometimes people are so closed off and they don't bring more people in, and you can't do more things to spread the love to new people too, right?
Yeah, and when it comes, and it also pulling it back to last week's podcast where we talked about the 4 foundations, is that fun element. You need friends and family to have fun. You are not, if you're single, this is thinking about being single at this moment in time. But you need fun in your life. You need friends and family to be, of course you love them. They're there for you and everything, but you also need to bring that fun, that someone to enjoy and love life with, and friends and family are going to do that. I hope anyway for the rest of you.
And then I would say the third category to love that's really important to master is purpose. So we ask people on a regular basis, obviously all the questions that we do when they're single, and even just our couples too. Like, it's so important to think of these things, single, dating, engaged, or married, but is, have you figured out what your calling is, or your purpose? Sometimes that, comes from something you're passionate about, your strengths, your weaknesses, all those things. And you really figure out what it is that you enjoy doing, not just something you're good at, but something that you get a reward from that, whatever it is you're doing. Like I always say all day long, I mean, people feel it in our hearts, in our passion, because at the end of the day, we're in a place where we love people, right? We love hearing their stories. We love spreading the love. And yes, there's work along that journey as matchmakers, but there's nothing better when we get the save the date from one of our obviously singles that are now coupled, that are going on that journey towards premarital and obviously marriage, and then are in our community of our family because they all have a purpose that they brought into the relationship prior, and then they became more purposeful together. So there's so many times when people just don't know that answer, which is fine, because I think God speaks to us in all different manners and all different times. So if you're like struggling with that, or you're trying to like think, well, I don't have a purpose, or I don't know, pray about that.
Yeah.
Because
and make it a priority to find that purpose as well. So many people don't necessarily even think about it. Like, we actually had asked a few people, okay, what, like, you know, every time we do a podcast, we're going to ask people around us.
We love surveying.
Yes, surveying. That's pretty important to us. And of course, so we can come on here and actually, you know, speak about other people's, you know, thoughts and opinions too, is that when they think of 3 love categories, purpose doesn't usually make it because it isn't at the front of their mind as such.
Right.
Like, people don't think about that. Like, they say, oh, you know, like, and it's hard to like pull the word back in, but you know, I love to do this, or I love to do this, whether it may be helping someone, you know, giving to a community, working with a charity, whatever it may be, or in our purpose, helping people find love. But it's, people forget that should be in your daily life of what your purpose is and what your walk is and why you're doing what you're doing every single day, for a bigger purpose. I think it's often forgotten about when, you know, living your daily life.
Well, yeah, and I mean, obviously, speaking to anybody out there that's providing for a household or a family, you know, I mean, sometimes you'll say, well, my purpose is to provide for my family, and then find the time to have fun, which is a great purpose. Yeah. The goal is to work hard enough to then be able to be in a lane or a space where you find purpose, whether that is working or whether that is doing what you're doing. Like I always say, I'm never going to retire because love never sleeps. It's a 24/7, you know, career, but it's also something that I absolutely love, bringing hearts together, right? So like whatever it is that you're seeking, or whatever you think, okay, like I'm providing right now, I'm not doing what I love doing, but then dream about whatever that is when you get to the other side. Work harder so that then you can find your purpose, and maybe it's volunteering, maybe it's doing mission work, maybe it's traveling, maybe it's just, I don't know, taking time to spend that you hadn't had for all these years because you've been providing for a family with the love of your life. But if you don't have those goals to set yourself up for something that's that much more meaningful than maybe either your situation that you're in, or just in general, you feel like you're just floating through life and you're like, I want to be able to do so much more. I want to have this much more. Mm-hmm. I truly believe it begins with your purpose.
Yeah, and also it doesn't have to be, if you don't necessarily know like one single purpose that you have, but like Renee said, you have a couple of things out of those lists, or just really sit back and maybe even write a list. Here we go.
No, but it's all
write lists. I'm terrible at telling everyone to write lists because I'm clearly a list doer, whatever it may be, whether it's Excel, whether it's whatever you do, or however you mentally like think of something. Like, put your purposes on like a sticky note on your fridge and remind it every day, like, you're doing this. You're not just like, we talk about goals all the time, but people will say, oh yeah, my goal is to retire when I'm 60, do this, and it's like, okay, but that's so far out. So what is your purpose every single day? So if you need to, put it on your fridge, remind yourself every day of what your purpose is, and maybe that'll even help you find your true one purpose, instead of like having maybe 4 purposes that are out there.
And one suggestion, I feel like we make this all the time, but if you haven't done it, or even if you have and you've done it a while ago, is taking, you know, some type of assessment to figure out who you are, what you're good at, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, all of those things, where you can really have a even more clear direction. And you'll start to learn things. Like I learned to myself, you know, okay, yes, I love people, so I need to stay in the lane of people. I love design, so I, you know, like to do things that have to do with, you know, making a space look good, or fashion, or things like that. So how do you put all of those little totally opposite things together in a place where you're doing something that's purposeful? And I always tell everybody, like, I love people, so I love to figure out who the core is that they are, but I also love fashion, and I know that when you're confident how you feel on the exterior, it also just, your entire makeup just shines, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's something that is like great because I can do a little bit of fashion, I can do a little bit of love, I can do a little bit of relationship building, whatever it is, you can create really your own. And if you're passionate about it and you have a purpose with it and anything, especially when it comes to business, it's amazing how anything is possible when you have that fire inside of you. But if you're not doing something purposeful, you're not going to continue down that path. You will start to you'll go down the spiral effect of, a relationship that's not loving anymore. It'll start to just fizzle because you're not purposeful and your desire to be in that relationship. You're not purposefully living out God's plan for you, and he's waiting on you to discover it so that he can do all the things that I believe he's designed you to do and be for the rest of the world, so the world is a better place.
I mean, I couldn't say any better myself. But also when it comes to purpose, I think like a final thing, to think about is that your purpose can change. People often think that when you are maybe younger and you had a purpose and that's what you must fulfill for the rest of your life, or you go through life is all in seasons. We all live in this seasonal life, it's same with family and friends. They might be friends forever, but maybe there's a season where you live in the same city together, like every part of our life goes through seasons. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing to remember with purpose. It doesn't have to be your purpose for 10 years. Like Renee said, even with like the relationships, and she focused a little more on fashion prior, it's like, it doesn't have to, yes, they can all conjoin into one, but it doesn't have to purely be just because you set yourself a purpose when you were 20 years old, it's going to be the same when you're 50.
Which is kind of like, how many times do we ask the question, so where did you go to school? What is your degree in? What are you doing now? And usually, unless you went to be a lawyer or a doctor or some type of, specific, it's amazing how many people, they learn that they do something different. That's why I always encourage everybody going to college to take an assessment, kind of where you're at, but also think about the future and think about what you're going to love doing, because you'll get burnout. When people are burnout, they flatline. Yeah. And then when they flatline, the relationships go tank.
Yeah, and it's so, and if you aren't following or you're sticking yourself, because you've had this mindset of having this purpose when you were 30, 25, whenever it may be, if you're so stuck on that, you're burning out because you're thinking you have to fulfill this purpose from when you were 5. Even if it was 2 years ago, your purpose can truly change at any point. And it's like that calling, right? People have either feel that they have a calling or just, whatever path God's leading them to. And I think that you just have to trust the process and also remind yourself that purpose can change, but to live with a purpose and love, have that category in your life of purpose, it just gives you that motivation in life.
And listening to your own self, because I think that even 6-year-olds are starting companies today, right? Like they are literally, whether it's selling lemonades, creating jewelry, selling cakes, whatever it is, they're doing something so I think you're born with purpose.
Yes.
And I think we start to do the things that are handed to us in our environment. And then we continue down that path. And like Connie says, it can be forever changing. Just like we always say, it's important to like reassess yourself on a regular basis because we're forever growing, right? Mm-hmm. But it's so important to then, have like, okay, as you grow and you grow and you grow and you grow, you realize when I had that lemon stand when I was 6 years old, I don't even like lemonade, right? So now, and this is a very obviously juvenile explanation of this, but now I'm saying like all of a sudden you realize you liked the financial part of that.
Yeah.
So you originally thought maybe your purpose was I liked the money coming in, I liked the whatever, the whole entrepreneurship, but then the reality of it is it totally turned into I like finances or I don't like whatever. So I love what you were saying is it's so important to not feel obligated in what you think maybe your purpose is or what your environment around you is telling you should do.
Yep.
It's so important. I love it when I have moments where nobody is around and I can just plug into my own mind without all the talking heads and everybody else's opinions. And it's important to have a purpose is to basically spend time with yourself. Like Connie, when we were talking about earlier, like, it's one of our other podcasts is it's so important to know who you are. But the only way you can do that is to put the oxygen mask on yourself, spend a little time, figure out what that means. Mm-hmm. And then from that, try things to figure out your purpose.
Yeah, and it's like you are the root of your purpose and you cannot listen to the outside noise. Of course, in life, we always get guided by either mentors, everything we may have. But when it comes to purpose, it has to be what your heart truly desires and what your heart loves.
Right. Because if you're not doing what you don't love, you will fail at it. So, I mean, this whole kind of podcast was around like finding, basically the 3 categories of love that really get you to a place where you are in love with yourself, you're in love with your life, and all things from that blossom into relationships, which is, us, we said God, family, and friends, so they keep you empowered and going in the right path, and good friends. Not all opinionated friends, great friends that motivate you and keep you strong and encourage you. And obviously finding your purpose is the piece that kind of connects you to the right person, I feel like, for life. So
it's like the little end of the jigsaw piece of what makes you feel excited.
Yeah, puzzle piece, right? So we hope that you've enjoyed this chat, and we look forward to to ones coming up. I'm so excited. We are almost at our 100th episode, which is really, really exciting because we have a full new fun exciting series coming up with a lot of steps and just improvements of things that we've heard from you guys that we can't wait to have a blast. So please keep writing in. We hope you have a blessed day, and we can't wait for our next chat.
Bye.
Bye. It's been another great talk on this episode of One True Talks by Renee Rochelle. I look forward to our next chat. Please write in your questions and comments so I can be sure to talk about whatever it is you want to discuss in our next upcoming episode. Lots of love. God bless. XOXO.